That's the problem.
Yeah, I don't like. For me, when the ones I've listened to, like, I don't know. I like the one that Dorothy did, the 5 Sibes one. I like how they have their their intro to who they are pre-recorded. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like it's just there to quit. Hers was too long though. I didn't like how long it was, but I feel like if we pre-record, I don't know, because I like music too.
Yeah, we should have music on there.
We should just have. Why can't we just pick somebody on Fiverr?
Because the Fiverr people let me down. I'm 0 for 5 on Fiverr.
Yeah, that's true.
We should just have new music every time.
I don't like that idea.
You don't?
I mean, I don't know.
No, you're allowed to not like it. Don't like the idea. Don't switch your mind now.
I feel like it would get confusing.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it would be like, I don't know, confusing.
Right.
And I don't like that. I'd rather be at something you recognize every time. Like every time you play the David Dobrik podcast, like it's the same every time. I like their intro because it's silly. You've heard theirs, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's
they can do no wrong.
Does McCann Dogs have an intro?
I don't know. Do they?
Yep, he does.
Welcome back to McCann Dogs. This is episode 47 of our McCann Dogs podcast. And
all right,
so
that's it. That's our intro. That was it.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty simple. Pretty just. It's just music.
Welcome to the podcast, eh?
Welcome back to McCann Dogs. This is episode 47
Oh, yeah.
McCann Dogs podcast. And joining me as Director of Online Training.
Oh, I can't listen to
Oh,
that.
man.
That's great. This one's cute, too, but it's a dog one. I don't know if you've heard this one. Ready?
Is there a dog in a car at a bar on the street? That's a
Oh, my gosh, I love it.
really want to meet. Hey, can I pet your dog?
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 Can I
You're
pet
probably
your
going
dog?
to go to jail if she pets your dog. Ooh.
Welcome to Camp.
So
I'm okay with that.
I like it because it sounds like an old school radio song intro.
You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like those Mac Tonight commercials from McDonald's. It's Mac Tonight. That's what it sounded like.
Oh,
Well, welcome to the podcast. Can we play those? We can play other people's stuff. No one cares.
I'm sure we can.
So we've just borrowed everybody else's intro.
Right?
Should we just go with that? But it's true. It sounded like Mac Tonight for sure.
Yeah, it kind of did. I think Casey and Candace's podcast starts like that too.
Here we go.
See, it's like
What? First of all, what is couples therapy? Like, are they broken or is it like a joke or what? What is that?
Because they've talked very publicly about how their relationship is very strained and it always has been. And that's kind of what they talk about. They talk about their real life issues.
Oh.
And, so like these are the things we actually experience because they're both like, he runs his own company, she runs her own company. They have 2 kids and they kind of talk about, this is reality. We don't see each other. We don't have time. She gets irritated by this. I get irritated by that. It's just kind of like real life.
Real talk has been popular lately. Those David Dobrik videos do so well. It's like, oh, like you could just be you and let your guard down, and then it can still be entertaining.
Right, exactly.
But we definitely need something catchy. Well, I'm sure sooner or later we'll get an intro going.
Maybe, or maybe we'll just from now on we'll just play somebody else's intro every time and confuse everybody.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of like collaborating, right? It's like, hey, check out these people because they got their stuff together and apparently we don't.
It's unwilling collaboration. They didn't even ask for it.
Right.
So, Jess, last week when we talked, you had really, really bad weather over there. It was like Snowmageddon, or what are you guys calling it over there? Polar vortex?
Yes, it was the polar vortex. I guess the snowstorm had a name too, but I don't know what it was.
Well, you did a great job on keeping me up to date minute by minute with how cold it was there. But you sent me a message, and I didn't really ever hear of this before now, and it was ice quakes. And you say you guys have ice quakes there?
So they're called frost quakes, I guess. And I'll fully admit I've lived in Michigan almost my entire life, and I didn't really know they were a thing. But we were sitting in the living room and the entire house shook. Like my windows shook. Jamie was actually in the office and he yelled through the house and he goes, "Was that you?" I think he thought I fell or something because it was so loud. And I'm like, "No, it wasn't you." And he goes, "No, it wasn't me." So we're both like peeking out the window and did snow fall off the roof? What the heck was it? And of course, I get on Facebook. Hey, did anybody else feel your whole house shake? And a couple of my friends felt it. And then somebody sent me a message and said it was probably a frost quake. So I guess, you can relate. You have earthquakes.
Right.
It kind of works the same way. Earthquakes is the two tectonic plates that are shifting. And when they rub together just the right way, when they release all that pressure and create this massive earthquake. So frost quakes, because trust me, I had to read a lot about them after I found out they were a thing. And then Jamie read a lot about them, and we had a really good conversation about how they work. Frostquakes are basically the ice, the water that's trapped under the ground. And we have a lot of that here. We have a lot of rock where we live, and the water will get trapped between the rocks, and then it freezes, and it kind of does the same thing as a tectonic plate shifting. The ice will freeze or the water will freeze, turn to ice, and when the ice expands, if it expands enough, it can actually crack the limestone rock underneath the ground. So when it cracks and it expands and it causes the rocks to shift or break or the ground to shift, it causes frost quakes. And I wouldn't say they're the same thing as an earthquake. It's really just one loud, it'd be more like dynamite blasting in a quarry. You hear it, you feel it, but it only lasts a second.
Right.
And that's it. I guess because we had such a deep freeze, it was the lowest I saw real temperature was -22. The lowest I saw with the wind chill was -31.
Wow.
So it's been cold, and apparently the ground is freezing and breaking underneath us.
I don't know how have you never heard of this before? If you've lived there all your life, it has to have been -20 before, right? Or is this the coldest ever?
No, it's definitely been this cold before. This isn't super normal for us. It's not really normal for it to get this cold for long periods of time. I think, like I said, because it only lasts for a minor second, we probably have felt it, probably have experienced it before, but I don't think that we ever knew what it was. Like, because it sounds a lot like when a massive amount of snow falls off your roof, it kind of sounds the same way.
Right.
Like
how long did it last?
It maybe a second.
Okay.
I mean,
right.
it literally lasted less than a second, and like the dogs heard it. The dogs jumped. We all jumped. We didn't know. Was it a car accident? Did a pipe explode? Did the water main break?
Right.
Is it the furnace? Like, we didn't know.
It's enough to get your heart racing, that's for sure.
It was. And then the crazy part was the next morning, my neighbor from across the street came over and knocked on my door at like 9:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, "I didn't mean to bug you, and I didn't know if you were awake, but I saw you look out the window at the same time I did last night. Did you feel the house shake too?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I explained the whole thing I just explained to you about the frost quakes. And she's lived here her whole life as well, and she had no idea either. And she goes, "I thought I was crazy." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, you might be, but..."
Right. That's not what we were talking about. We're talking about the ground shaking.
But yeah, she felt it too. And then I had a friend of mine that lives about a mile away from us, and she felt it too. So we kind of came to the conclusion that most likely what made our whole house shake was a frost quake.
That's pretty cool. I will tell you something though. I secretly, every time you come out here, I hope for an earthquake, just so I just want to see what happens.
It's a horrible thing to hope for.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're all benign, they shake and stuff like that. But even just a little one, just enough to for you to be able to say you had an earthquake.
I've experienced an earthquake.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and I don't think there's anything here like that, like any type of natural phenomenon really here that's like, I wish you could experience that. Snow.
Yeah,
but
it was
you
cold.
Did. Right. Yeah. Snow and cold and that kind of stuff.
Snow and cold. It just rained here all week. Rain and flooding. And in LA here, when things flood, people go down to the floods and watch the floods for some reason. And then it turns into a rescue where we're watching somebody getting rescued from said flood. So that happened. That happened this week.
Did you get a lot of rain?
We got a lot of rain because we haven't seen much rain at all, and everything's dry. And we got a few days of just coming down rain. It takes a long time for everything to get absorbed into the hard packed dirt, and the gutters can't handle it. So it gets pretty flooded. It gets pretty flooded out here.
Do you guys have the roads that are specifically designed where they have like the like humps in them so that the water can rush across them without like wiping out the roads?
No. Not at all. The best that we do here is that the roads are a little like convexed and the water tries to go off to the side a little bit. But the Antelope Valley that I live in, because I'm surrounded by mountains, it kind of goes into a basin. So everything collects in the middle of town and it gets really bad.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, and it'll stay for like a day or so and then everything will finally get absorbed into the ground and stuff. But down in LA and down in some of those other like Hollywood Hills areas, since it's been so dry and they've had fires and stuff there, it's just a lot of landslides, a lot of houses falling down. So we get catastrophes when it rains here now, apparently.
We don't really have anything like that. We get polar vortexes, I guess. That's about it.
Right. Yeah.
We did go from having winter weather advisories to 2 days later, no joke, the weather thing said warm weather warning. Like, really? A warm weather warning?
Right.
Okay.
They're just messing with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
point.
it's 45 today. It's and it's raining right now, and it's supposed to rain all day tomorrow, so this could cause some we could be flooding.
What does rain do to snow?
Well, for one, it melts it. For two, we again have frost and the ground is frozen, so kind of like what you were saying, you guys have really hard ground because you don't get a lot of rain. Kind of works the same way when it rains and you have a frost level. The rain has nowhere to go. It can't get into the ground because the ground is frozen, and if it doesn't stay warm for long enough, it sits on top of everything. So it'll sit on top of the snow. It'll melt the snow down, but then it'll also sit on top of the snow. It'll sit on top of the roads, and then it's going to turn to ice tonight, and then it'll all melt again tomorrow because it's supposed to be warm tomorrow. The biggest issues we have is we have a lot of rivers. We have a lot of water. I live in Michigan, but we have a lot of rivers, and the rivers will create. They call them ice dams. Mm-hmm. What'll happen is all the water's got to go somewhere. A lot of times it ends up in the river. The river will start to rise. The ice will start to break. And because the river's rising rapidly and the ice is breaking, the ice will ride on top of each other and like the big chunks of ice, and they'll start to move downriver. And now you've got ice is a lot like moving rocks. You've got these huge chunks of ice that are flying downriver, and they will take out houses and they will take out anything in their path. And if it floods, you'll have, pretty major damage. So
you guys have runaway icebergs? Like, watch out.
Yes, it does happen.
Dang, they just Titanic your house.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, it can happen.
Wow, we sure do have the opposite. We sure do have the opposite weather, don't we?
We really do.
Dang. Oh.
We stay inside a lot in the wintertime, and you guys stay inside a lot in the summertime.
Oh, yeah. We do melt in the summer. You guys will hear all about it, I'm sure, during the summer months when we have to podcast, and I'm just dying and panting, and the audio is messed up because the swamp cooler's on, and Crystal's yelling, hurry up. So last week's podcast did pretty well. I was really stoked to have it up on all platforms, and we got some good feedback in the Facebook group. I was pretty happy about that. What'd you think?
Yeah, I think we did too. I definitely think we got some good feedback. I think everybody really enjoyed it.
Did you watch Shane Dawson's new video?
The one that's like an hour and a half long?
Yes.
That's like a preview. Is it? I started to watch it and then I don't remember what happened. I think I just got distracted. Was it previews to all of his upcoming conspiracy theory videos?
The hour and 40-minute video?
Yeah.
No. It was the conspiracy theory videos, but he had he tried to make it like an MTV True Life where there's like 4 stories going on, and we're going to get like 2 or 3 segments, each, and then we're going to jump around to different stories, and we're going to go back to the other story, and he's all over the place with it.
Yeah, like I said, I started to watch it, but I did not finish watching it.
Okay, neither did I. I think I fell asleep on the couch, and when I woke up, some murder mystery show was on that Crystal was watching. And I was half asleep staring at the screen, and I was like, is this still Shane Dawson's conspiracy theory video? And it wasn't. So I'll have to finish watching it. But it's just a few conspiracy theories all roll up into one.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the new way he's going with a lot of his videos. And I do want to sit down and watch it because, I don't know, this stuff is pretty interesting. He's definitely going to captivate an audience doing that.
Yeah.
But I liked it better when he was doing more documentary style stuff.
Yes, I was watching it, and part of it was good, and part of it I was kind of I'm not really digging this too much. But I like the stride that he was going on with the TanaCon and with the Paul's video and stuff like that. Like I was ready for something. Graveyard Girl, I like that one. I was ready for something else from somebody else.
It would be really neat if he was able to like continue that trend and like document like old school YouTubers like that, you know, where are they now and what are they doing now?
Right.
And I mean, even like not even necessarily like super old school YouTubers, like maybe just talking about people that were huge, like Boxy. Do you remember Boxy?
I do not. Fill me in.
This Boxy? You don't remember Boxy?
Uh-uh.
Oh my gosh.
What year was Boxy?
Oh gosh, probably 2008, 2009 YouTube.
No.
She created a character. She created a YouTube channel. She created this character called Boxy, and she was very over animated, kind of emo chick, but every video started off with her just this over animated, my name is Boxy. And she was very, I don't know, it was interesting. And she was doing it as a joke for her friends. And then it kind of took off. And then she made a couple more videos and then she just disappeared. And
Okay.
I just saw a video on her not long ago, an update video where this guy was talking about what happened to her. And it was like stuff like that I think would be interesting.
Yes.
I think it would be interesting, but at the same time, I guess there's probably a lot of people who have no idea who Boxy was.
I did not. I Googled it right now while you were talking, and I do recall the face from back in the day, but did not pay too much attention to Boxy. But I agree. I would rather see, and I know he was doing a bunch more documentary, before he was doing the documentary series, he was doing a bunch more conspiracy theories stuff before that. But and I haven't finished watching it, and it's still good. Like I enjoyed it. I'll keep it going, but I was really hoping for like that last docuseries to really set him off. Like, oh dang, like he hasn't peaked yet, and this is definitely not his peak. So I still think more to come from him, and there'll be good stuff. But I'm really hoping for the docuseries.
Yeah, I hope he brings those back. I hope he can find more people that are willing to work with him and willing to do that stuff with him. Because like I said, there's a lot of people on YouTube that have disappeared or have, you know, just they've changed so drastically to really see like more of that behind the scenes and where are they now. What was that show called on VH1? Behind the Music.
Behind the Music. Yes, exactly. See, something like that would be cool.
Yeah, behind the creators.
If you could pick somebody for him to do, who would you want? Who would you want to be able to have everything exposed about them? Not exposed in a bad way, but like here's like the curtains pulled back.
Oh man, almost like the story of how they started to where they are now. Oh gosh.
Or just everything, just like the curiosity of the stuff of like what happens when the cameras are off, or just like.
Oh man, I honestly don't know. Nobody like popped into my head immediately, so I know that's an honest answer. Like my brain is still like, who would I want to know that much information about? I really don't. I would have to like look at my subscription list. Like, oh yeah, there's somebody I'd like to, you know their whole life story on. But a lot of the creators I watch have their channels, plus they have their vlog channels, so you feel like you're already a part of that.
Yeah, but you know how you're watching that and you're like, something's off, something's missing, something's weird, or something's not the same, or I wonder if that's how it really is. Like,
oh right.
I would think maybe who was that dude? He was really spastic, and then he just dropped off the face of the earth, and then he reappeared again. You showed me who he was a couple years ago. It's that Tobuscus guy. That's who it is.
Toby Turner.
Yes, Toby Turner. I need to know what's going on behind those eyes. Like when I watch him do his videos and stuff, there's so much more going on than what is presented to the camera, and I would want to know what that guy's up to.
Toby definitely puts on more of like a character-ish type of personality. Like it's definitely you know that's not how he is. There's no way that's how he is all the time in real life. Like even when he does like his one take vlogs or whatever, which I don't think he's doing them as much anymore. He used to be huge. He used to be doing you're right. That would be an interesting story. That would definitely be something that I would be interested in, mainly because I watched him for years, literally.
I have not. I only watched him for the 1 year, but I could just see his eyes. Like I need to know what happens when he puts down the camera and how he is.
Yeah, is he exhausted?
Yeah, right. But yeah, so he's something like that would be good.
Yeah, that would definitely. I think that would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
I could see, who else though, like now that I'm thinking about it, that would be neat to see like a behind the scenes and how things, not necessarily like just their life, but like how things operate would be Hank and John Green from the Vlog Brothers.
Yeah.
The beginning of what they did to now, like just the the storied history of every, because they created VidCon. Like there's so many things they've done with different, like creating VidCon and nonprofits, and they do the what is it? The thing they do in December. I don't remember what it's called. It's not awesome. Yeah, Project for Awesome. I couldn't remember the name of it. The Project for Awesome, but they've been doing that for years. And like, just to see, I don't know how they came up with all these things, and now they're both authors and they're both parents, and they're, people always wonder how I'm able to do all the things. Like, how do they do it? How do they create all of this stuff, and how are they able to pull it off?
Right. And it would be cool to see something like that, especially since you would be doing the docuseries on creators, so the footage and the stories and the timelines are there. So half the work's done for you. You just need to present it. And I think that would be cool. I hope he goes and does more of that.
Yeah, we should tweet at him and tell him. So we left everybody hanging last week because you let me talk for way too long about my YouTube channel and my YouTube history. And we didn't even get to like break the ice on how you got started.
But it was interesting. It was interesting though. I listened back to it in the car to work back and forth, and I was like, oh, even though I heard it the first time, it was really good.
Well, that's good. But now inquiring minds want to know, how did you get started doing all this crazy stuff?
Oh man. And I knew the question was coming, obviously, because I asked it to you first, but you had an easy time just spitting it out. I had to sit there and think a minute, like, wow, what are all the things that I've done? Because there's been a lot of things, a lot of things. And I'm like, I'll just pick the few highlights that are important. And then part of me is like, and then I started questioning myself. I was like, why did I start making videos? Like, why did I do that? Maybe late 2006, I was playing Warcraft after that South Park episode came on. I don't know if you remember that episode or not.
I do.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this Warcraft game sounds cool. So I got really sucked into Warcraft for a couple years, and I mean really sucked into it. It was so fun, and at the end of the couple years, I was kind of going like, man, I just like spent those last 2 years just sucked into my computer and stuff, and I probably could have done a lot more in those few years that I was just playing video games. And so I put down the Warcraft, and I wanted to watch some anime, and the anime was in Japanese, and I was like, man, and I was kicking myself at that point for spending so much time playing online video games. I was like, you could have learned a whole language, you could have learned Japanese, and then in that time you played Warcraft, and you could know what's going on in this anime. And I'm like, maybe I should do that. That'll be fun. That sounds really cool. And this was like 2007 maybe or so. And at that time there wasn't really much going on the internet as far as social media wasn't really taking off. It's Twitter and Facebook was new.
MySpace.
Yeah, I had my MySpace. So like, I'm gonna learn some Japanese. So I start Googling around to see what's going on, and there were some people on YouTube, because YouTube was, I think, just starting then. And I had a YouTube account in, I want to say 2007. It looks like I started my YouTube account, and I would do more consuming than posting at that time. I wasn't posting anything on YouTube, and I'd look around and I'd find some people that were in Japan, and I'd watch some of their vlogs and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna make some Japanese friends. So I don't know what made me do it, but on Justin.tv, do you remember Justin TV?
I do.
One of the first, if you guys don't know what Justin TV is, it was one of the first live stream sites out there that, if you had a webcam, you could just straight up live stream. There was no rules. It just had started back then. This was in 2008. So I started a Justin TV account, set up my webcam, and I'm going to go fishing for some Japanese people. Like, I'm going to make a Japanese friend. It's the age of technology. This is how I'm going to learn Japanese. So I made a page. On the big header page, I wrote in really bad Japanese. It said something like, Watashi no Amerikajin no seikai desu, which kind of means like my American life. But it was written really poorly. So I would come home from work, I would turn on the live stream, and my webcam back in the day, I didn't really have a webcam. I had a old like high VHS camcorder and one of those WinTV like capture cards inside my computer. And so I would have to hit record on the actual camera, and after the end of the 2 hours of the cassette would end, it would stop my live stream. It would turn to a blue screen, rewind the tape, and then I would have to hit record again for it to push output video to my computer. So it was very clunky back then. There was really no rules back in the day, or none of the equipment was really sold to live stream. But I did it. I did it every day for a year. I did it. I did it every second I was home. I did it.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy to know that you committed for that long and did, like, even nowadays, nobody does that.
Yeah, it was crazy, and nobody was doing it back in the day, which was interesting when you had to explain it to people. So one of the days, about a month in or so, I had some people from Japan come and go, and I had this one guy come in, and his name was Goch, and he's like, hey, like, I'm Japanese from Japan. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So he'd come to my live streams all the time, and I struck up a pretty good friendship with him. And in Japan, everybody learns English in Japan a little bit. They take a couple years of English, just like we do other languages, but they force English there. So he knew more English than I knew Japanese. So he would show up, but he'd show up text only in the sidebar chat rooms. There wasn't any interaction other than that. So he would show up for my live streams. I started showing him stuff in the house, and I started showing him stuff like we'd cook dinner and stuff. And he got to see, my American life. And this is what I wanted. I'm like, this is great. So then as we became like more friends, I sent him a webcam. So I was stoked about this. I put a webcam in a box and I shipped it to Japan. He got the webcam. He hooked the webcam up to his computer. And then now I could see him. So yeah, so it was crazy. So during that year time that I would live stream, and he would come watch it, there'd be times where I could also interact with him now via video. And
it's so crazy because it was so, I mean, it's not like it was so long ago, but it was so long ago technology-wise.
Yes. It was 2008.
That's so crazy.
And there was only a few people on Justin TV that were popular. There was Justin. There was iJustine. She was on there. She was very popular on there too. The Stream.tv was on there, so people would go there to watch like live interactive television, which was really, really cool. We watched a lot of that. But that was really it. There wasn't very many channels to choose from.
It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, so I did that for a while, and that was pretty successful. Like I had a pretty good following from that. But then I quickly like switched to Skype once he got the webcam, and I could just interact with him. So him and I would interact all the time. I would go out and, I'd try to get a longer cord so I could go outside and take the webcam outside, and he would do the same. And, I would send him like packets of taco sauce seasoning in the mail so he could make like tacos at his house and stuff. And he would send me like okonomiyaki, which is like a potato-y pancake mix and stuff. So we just started like trading stuff back and forth, and it was great. I learned a lot of Japanese. He learned a lot of English. He pretty much lived on American time with me. And, so that's what kind of got me started on creating. Maybe around, 2007 or so, I had started a YouTube channel. And in 2009 was when I uploaded my first video. And I found my old YouTube account last night, and I showed you, I sent you a link to it. I found my old YouTube account last night. It said that I joined on March 13th, 2007, but February 10th, 2009 was my first video, which will actually be about 10 years in about a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy when I looked at that. I was like, holy cow, that time went by fast. But you guys, I'll have to put a link to this channel. It's so inspiring because the videos were so bad.
I think a lot of people's first videos on YouTube were bad.
But these videos were really, really constructed to have, I slowed down my English. I spoke very slowly because I was making these videos for Gosh, my friend. There's a 10-minute house video where I just walked around my house and talked about things like almost monosyllabically because I wanted Gosh to be able to understand because his English was limited, but I was showing him my house. So the real reason why I uploaded stuff to YouTube was because I was trying to show Gosh my American life.
That's so crazy.
Yes.
I mean, it's such an interesting concept. It wasn't like you were doing it when you first started because you wanted people to watch videos. You were doing it for just kind of like, I mean, I mentioned him earlier, kind of like Hank and John when they started Brotherhood 2.0. They started that to make content for each other because they lived across the country from each other.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much what Gosh and I did. So I had one of those flip cams, those flip minnows, like those little mini flip cams.
I had one.
Yep, I still have mine. So I had one of those, and that was awesome. It was so compact. You could film anywhere. We don't need image stabilization. It was all over the place. So I mean, so these things were basic. We would just cook dinner. I'd go out and start just making these videos of my life. And then that Christmas, I bought one for him and sent it to him. So he also has a YouTube channel like I do, where it's him running around Japan, speaking either slow Japanese or his slow English. And showing me Japan, like pretty much almost private. Like I had like private Japan like experience.
It's like writing emails back and forth.
Yeah.
Emails, I guess, too. But like when you had a pen pal, only you had a video pal.
Right. We had a video. I had a video pal. So here's where it took off. So during that time, I was using YouTube to consume a little bit. So that's why I remember like the front page. And I remember the video responses and stuff like that. But I was using it to show Ghosh my videos without having like I didn't pay too much attention to YouTube. Like some of the stuff I would watch because it was funny, but mostly it was just waiting for stuff to upload. So we did that for a while, and then he ended up having, in Japan they have way better like technology than we do. So his iPhone was one of the first ones that he had unlimited data on. So then I got to watch him really walk around Japan with his phone and pretty much live stream and go on the subway and go to dinner, and it was such a good experience. But then other people started watching our videos. Other people started commenting because I didn't know I don't think you could private anything back then. It was so clunky on YouTube. You would just upload and go. I think half my videos say untitled on them, you know?
Right.
But other people started watching and gaining interest. And then the videos were funny. Like I would just try to make them silly always. You know, I was always just there to try to make them silly. And other people started enjoying it. And that's where people latched onto it. Some of the people came from Justin.tv, which I started doing less and less because I didn't need that no more. I went fishing for my Japanese friend. I caught him. And now we were going back and forth with just showing each other stuff.
Right.
Know? So I had done that for a while. And so in that amount of time, things on Justin TV got weird. There was lots of swatting. There was that kid that committed suicide on the stream. That did not help Justin TV at all. Yeah. You know, that didn't help him at all. So I moved away from that to Skype and a little bit to the YouTube. So then Ghosh and our relationship, that sounds weird. Well, our relationship fizzled when he ended up getting a job because he was off that year. That whole year that we hung out, he was off. But it was time for him to get a job and move on. You know, he was at that age. And so the content kind of grew thin. And right at that point, in maybe 2010, 10 or so, a Vidi popped up. Vidi was an app on the iPhone, and I didn't have an iPhone at the time. I had a iTouch.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I had an iPod iTouch, and I installed Vidi to, in case you guys don't know what Vidi is, Vidi was an app that was way ahead of its time. It was a 15-second video making app that was much like the 6-second app you guys know that came and went.
Kind of like Vine.
Kind of like Vine, but it was a little bit ahead of its time. So I had installed that, and I had made a video on there. And I think at this time I cut myself a mohawk, so I had a mohawk, and I would make 15-second silly videos just like the Vine people would do. Like, I did it just for fun. And then maybe like 2 weeks into it, I got a message from Evan at Vidi, and he's like, "Hey, like you're like top 1% of like the most viewed stuff." So then they started floating me stuff. So like I would get like shirts, and I would get like like packages of just like, "Oh look, here's a bunch of bubbles and balloons. Try to do a video funny with that." Like they would send you props and stuff in the mail, and then I was on the suggested page. So when you installed Vidi, and Vidi was getting really popular, the guy who owned XDrive got bought out by Microsoft and threw a lot of money at Vidi, and it was only based about an hour from here, so I was able to go down to Vidi headquarters and see them and do the stuff locally with them. It really took off when they added me to the like, "Hey, welcome to Vidi. Here's some people you should follow." And then my channel grew and grew and grew, and I did about 350 videos or so there, and then I kind of got burnt out with that. That kind of got burnt out. But that app was so ahead of its time. If it would have just waited one more year, it would be exactly what that 6-second app. What was that place called?
Vine.
It would be exactly what Vine was.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that there was definitely a lot of potential there, but again, it was just one of those things before its time, kind of like you're live streaming your life.
Right. Yeah, and I think the thing that really killed it is that people were still new to recording themselves. They were still new to having a camera on their phone. They were still new to being their own content creators. And when I was making these videos, it was only people that understood technology. There was no regular people that stumbled upon it because they were still afraid of their camera.
Yeah, I definitely can see that, back when we started doing all of this, it's so strange now because it's so normal. I mean, you look at like even the people on TikTok, it's so normal for them to just set up a camera and record themselves being as silly as possible. And nobody cares if you're watching anymore. And when people see other people doing it, they immediately go, "Oh, they're making a video."
Right.
they're not staring at you like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Why are you filming yourself? And what's going on here?
Yeah, so since that wasn't widely accepted, Vidi was just ahead of its time, and it wasn't getting the grab that Vine got. And because by the time Vine came out 2 years later, that iPhone was promoting their camera. They were promoting the videos. They were starting to show you, hey, look, this thing's a multimedia device. It's not just a way to answer your phone and store your iTunes music.
Yeah.
So I did that. I did that for a couple years, and I kind of got bored with that. It was a lot of videos I made that were 15 seconds long, and I had this idea because I was on YouTube one day and I was watching. Well, I didn't have the idea. I saw a collab channel with like a bunch of tweens, and they each had a day of the week, and it was really popular, and the collab channel thing was really popular, and I wanted a collab channel. I wanted to be me and like 6 other people. We'd each have a day of the week and be our perspective on the same thing. So that's when I started Random Friend Squad, and that was in 2010, and it was
You started that before you started your own channel, right?
Oh yeah, so I had that idea in 2010, and it sat there for maybe a year and a half before anything was uploaded to it. So it was Jason, Crystal's brother Jason, RFSJ, and then it was me, and then it was Mike, which he's Nerdy Nine Tails on twitch.tv. People go follow him. He's really, really funny. And we needed another person, and we had 4 or 5 people revolve through the doors over the 3 years or so that we did Random Friend Squad. So everybody had their day of the week. Everybody had a topic or a challenge or a review or something like that, and we all did it, and it was great. I was looking at it last night going like, wow, I forgot all about this channel. I forgot all about it. We have over 150 videos on there, and people always want to know where the RFSDan came from, and it came from Random Friend Squad. That's because I did that for a while, and it was pretty popular. Like it did well. Like people were happy with it. The content was really good. It was really good.
Yeah, I've seen videos on it. You've sent me stuff from it, and I've seen other videos on it, and it was definitely neat. And you're right. It was when a lot of people were doing those big collab channels, and
yeah.
God, they used to be such a popular thing.
Yeah, and the thing that I love about the Random Friend Squad channel is I feel like it was super honest. Like this was before, like there was nobody getting money to produce anything. There was nobody getting paid big bucks to put out like rad content. It was just like, this is what YouTube was. I was what YouTube was. It was a little bit more popular than the content we put out. Like there's still like nicer looking videos and more scripted stuff, but that's what YouTube was. Just people making the videos, trying to make them as entertaining and as much as their reach of like technology could, I always sucked at editing, but I loved it. So anytime I learned a new trick, it'd be in all my videos. And that's what I loved about YouTube is it was just honest.
Yeah. Unlike now where everything is so scripted and perfect,
Yeah,
which isn't necessarily true. There are still a lot of channels that do well just being themselves, but
yes, but we
it
were all
has
doing this
the-
together.
yeah.
Yeah, everything had that same feel to it of just almost like amateur hour, but it was cute. Yeah, so we did that. Random Friend Squad was popular. Every year or so, we would do it for like 3 or 4 months, and then we'd get tired of it, and then it'd come back the next year. And so I did that. I had kind of forgotten about Random Friend Squad until last night when I was trying to think like, man, what did I do? Oh, hold on, Mooches. Hold on, the cat's.
Tell the story.
Hold on, I gotta move the cat. Hey, tight. Okay, sorry. So after Random Friend Squad ended, I had a lot of content in a lot of places. I had some stuff on Justin TV. I had some stuff on Vidi. I had some stuff on 2 different YouTube channels now. So I created RFSDan, and RFSDan was supposed to be, and I think it still says in the about, it still says this is a place where I will collect, and post everything I've ever done. So I was about to do that. I was going to just take all the videos that I had ever done and just put them in this one place. So at that time, I started watching the CTFXC videos with Charles Trippy and stuff, and I found him through Allie because she did a challenge where she tried to eat everything on the dollar menu at Wendy's, which was a pretty good video. It's one of my favorite videos. So I found them and I started watching them, and I was like, wow, these vlogs are cool. And this was really early on in the vlogs, really super early on in the vlogs. And I was like, wow, like I want to do a vlog. This will be fun. I'll do a vlog. I've done a lot of videos now. I feel like my content has gotten better and I could be entertaining for 10 minutes at a time as we lived my day. It quickly turned into a vlog channel. So I started uploading vlogs, and that's where my stuff lives now. And you can see some of my old stuff on like Flashback Fridays. You'll see some of my old Vidi content from when I was doing Vidi. But that's where like I landed now. I was in a CTFXC YouTube group, and I did a unboxing video of one of my hoodies that I got from them. And yeah, it was like a CTFXC hoodie, and I posted it in the group, and it took off really well. Like people liked it and stuff, and then they gravitated towards me, and that's when I started doing the stuff like with the vlogs. Like, oh yeah, that was fun. That got some laughs. Okay, here, like let's follow me around. So that's what really started the vlogs. Was pretty much the CTFXC stuff. Like I can do that, I can do that too. And then maybe, I don't know, a few months into that, I think Di from Real Beal Vlogs, I think she invited me to your group.
Is that what it was?
I think she was already in it. I was trying to figure it out last night. It was either her or Water's wife.
Oh,
Because I was on I don't know if you were a part of this back in the day. I was on a 4-panel live stream with Austin and Jess, Di from Real Beal Vlogs, Water's wife from Water's Wife Vlogs, and me. And I think we just talked about vlogs and stuff like that, and just like creating.
Right.
And I don't recall what it was for. It was a long time ago. But throughout that grapevine, I got invited to your group. And at that point, I was saying yes to every group. But every time I'd go into a YouTube group, the YouTube group was poorly run. It was only people posting. It was only people sub for sub. And nobody had any leadership at all. And then when I got into the one that you had, and it was small then. It was like really, really small.
Yeah, I want to say like way back then, I want to say there was probably less than 300 people in it.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was looking for good people in the group to admin. To like help me admin.
Right.
And I think that's probably why I ended up messaging you, because you were active. You were active in the group.
It was all about being active. There was a handful of us that were active. I think Zach was even in there. John Lovell.
Yep,
was
Love
in
John
there.
Lovell.
Yeah,
He
a
was
lot
in
of people.
there. Stop Jabbering On was in there.
Yes.
Yeah, I
yes.
pretty much took and added, like this could be, I could explain why I started that group. That could be a whole nother podcast.
I know, right? But all those
but-
people were active, and it was already a community. Like you guys already had it jamming before, like I got involved. But I was just there. Anybody else that was there, and there's a few handful of us that hang around still. But
Yep.
that's how it started to hang out with your group, because you actually ran the group. You actually had threads for this and that, and if you didn't do something correctly, you were told like, hey, this is what it takes to keep you in the group and not get kicked out.
Because I don't allow, you can't post YouTube links in it at all. I didn't want it to be, because every YouTube group was just a spam group. It was like, watch my video, like my video, blah, 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 blah. And I wanted it to be more of that, kind of like what we talked about last week, where I kind of want to start a channel talking about real life. I wanted that group to be more about like a support group. Hey, we're all doing this thing, and we're all doing the same thing, and we're all going through stuff and need help, and
Right.
why can't we all get in here and talk about it? Hey, I have a problem. Where do you find the best music? Where do you find the best camera? What's your opinion on this? And I just felt like there wasn't really anything like it out there doing it that way.
Yes, and you're right, because there wasn't anybody to tell you how the video should be made. There wasn't anybody telling you what cameras you should have, and that's what I loved. I felt like I found my peers. Before that, I'm like, you're the only one in your circle that is doing creating and stuff. How am I supposed to figure out anything new? And your place had that.
Right.
Yeah, the people that I made friends with and stuff there, they were doing the same thing that we were. They were making amateur hour videos like we were, and with love, and it was great. It was great.
And can you believe it? Now that group has almost 10,000 people.
Yeah. Every time I go in there and look at it, I don't recognize like the quality of the content that we put in there versus the quality of the content that's in there now is amazing. How much better everybody as a whole has gotten.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, it's a pretty cool group. I still try to do like I used to do with like Milestone Mondays, and now I'm doing Thumbnail Tuesdays, and I'm
Right.
trying to like nail down some more conversational topics like that for like weekly topics. But when you have a group with 10,000 people, and then I have the Pawdience group with almost 15,000 people, and then I have another YouTube group it's called the Silver Group, and it's for people with 100,000 subscribers and over, and I've probably got 150 people in that one. Like, I have so many groups that I run on Facebook. It's crazy.
Holy cow.
And I don't ask me how I have to. Full disclosure, I don't have time to run them all, and I don't do them all well.
I will say, looking back and trying to think back of, this is the first time I really thought back of all the way to the beginning and all the stuff that we've done. It was so much more dead back then than now. When I say dead, I mean like you just throw something out there and you didn't know if it was going to stick or not. You didn't know what was popular, what was working. And like, I'm talking like early on in like 2009, 2010, and you could just really be yourself without an influence on anybody. Even when I say influence, like even the stuff that all of us make, we take bits and pieces of what we like about other people. I'm like, oh, I like the way this is shot, or this is done, or the way this is exposed, or I like the way this guy uses this cadence to deliver, his outro. And there was nothing back then. And I thought, I think all the best stuff came from back then.
I tend to agree. I feel like there was no you didn't have to follow the trends. You didn't have to jump on all these tentpole marketing strategies. You didn't have to do all this stuff to be found. You legit could be yourself, and just people either liked you or they didn't. If they didn't like you, they just kept on scrolling. And if they did, you started to build your own community, where now it does. A lot of the time it feels like if I don't do this trend, it's just you'll slowly start to fade. And
if you want to find success.
If you want to find success. That's all I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. If you want to stay relevant.
Yes.
Otherwise, you could just keep doing what you were speaking about CTFXE, Charles and Allie. I think that now that they're having a baby, they've seen a pretty big jump from that, because people that kind of just faded out with their stuff are now coming back.
Right. We have another chapter in the story.
Exactly. It's definitely more of a, I don't know, it just reels you back in.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. They've never been one to jump on like trends and stuff, and it shows.
Yes.
Their channel did really, really well, and now it's kind of flatlined.
Yes, but he, in my opinion, is a true vlogger.
Yes, 100%.
And he's stuck true to his vlog, but the trend says no. The trend says David Dobrik, like manic.
Right. But Charles has always, I think, still stayed himself.
Yes.
He hasn't changed for the sake of I could get more views if I did this. I think he has always really just stayed with that. This is what I do. This is my life, and I'm sharing my life. And if you either like it or you don't, and if you don't, that's okay.
Right. And I think maybe with this pregnancy thing, it might be one of those things where like it's got to be stale a little bit. Like he had a burst when him and Allie got married and stuff like that. So like that story gets to be told, and now we're kind of like, we're not at the end of that storyline, but we've seen that story be told throughout a whole cycle, like a whole holiday cycle and all that stuff. And then now you get to be excited again, because now you're gonna get a whole new set of ideas and like concepts and views and opinions thrown at you that you didn't have before. So it's gonna renew. I think it's gonna renew them as well.
It's gonna be very interesting, because the one video I watched, they talked about it wasn't planned. Like, it wasn't like they wanted to have a baby right now. They wanted to have a baby, but they weren't ready to have a baby right now. And I think she's pretty freaked out about it. Like, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. Yeah,
I'll definitely tune in. I think I've stuck with them the longest out of anybody ever is the CTFXC community. Like I think that's when my first memory of really watching something on YouTube was.
I don't know if I watched Charles before or if I started watching him after watching Shay, because I used to watch Shay Carl, but Shay Carl before they made the Shay Tards channel.
Right. I only watched a little bit of him before the brain surgery years, a little bit like here and there. But when he had his brain surgery, that's when it took off to mainstream. That's when Crystal was like, hey, I've been following this dude on Instagram. This was a long time ago. And like, oh, he had like this brain surgery. And I looked at him, I'm like, he looks familiar. I think I've seen his videos on YouTube before. After some research, I'm like, oh, sure did.
Yep.
Sure did. I didn't watch much of Shay stuff at all. I went and watched a little bit of it here and there, but I did not know about him.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Shay, but Shay was in that same circle with like Philip DeFranco. They used to all be, the Maker Studio founders, but they used to all be friends. And I watched a lot of Philip DeFranco's videos, like from way back when. So like you kind of like years ago on YouTube, it used to be if you were a creator and you showed your other friend who was a creator and you talked about them, everybody flocked to their channel because they wanted to know more about you and more about your friends. It doesn't seem to work like that anymore. Like you can talk about somebody in a video and say, oh, they're a YouTuber as well. And nowadays it seems like nobody cares. It's way back then. It was like, oh, well, I'm watching Phil, and Phil's friends with Charles, and Charles is friends with Shay, and Shay's friends with whoever. So you kind of like came in that, like Sarah and Yura. I kind of came into that circle because I was watching, Corey Williams' videos, and he was friends with Nathan, and Nathan was friends with Sarah and Yura. So I like got sucked into those circle of people. Back in the day, that was just kind of the way it worked. Right. Where like now, just not as much.
Now it's oversaturated as well. Back then, like I would watch my one person I cared about, and then there was 24 more hours of no content.
Yeah.
And all I wanted to do was grab onto somebody who like halfway had their good head on their shoulders, because there were some bad videos out there.
Oh yeah.
There were
yeah.
some bad videos out of there. And when I say bad videos, it's mostly bad cameras. The cameras sucked so bad back in the day, and people would use their webcam. People would try to use their flip phones to make it, and that just did not work on YouTube. So when you got a hold of somebody, and back then everybody was so easily obtained, you could email somebody and you'd probably get a response back from them because there was so little interaction. But if you had good camera skills and you could edit it and you could just have a little bit of charisma, like you were going to get latched onto by everybody.
Pretty much.
But now, everybody looks like Tanner Fox and everything's saturated. So it's not as exciting anymore to be like, hey, go follow my friend over here because he's creating something cool when, everybody's creating something cool.
Yeah. You're not so starved for more people to watch.
Right.
Where I think back in the day you were. And there was just this, oh, well, they're friends with them, so I'm going to check them out. Like you just did. That was just what you did.
Yeah.
When a creator said, hey, go check out this person's channel, you did it. Now somebody can say that and you're just like, meh.
Right. And I don't want this story to be a story of like how we were there first. Like back in the day, this thing used to be different and now you kids have ruined it all. That is not what it's about. It was just about timing. Like I just decided that was the time that I was going to do something online. I was always a technology person. I worked at NASA. Like I've always been up to date on technology. And so I was just there when this thing started and I thought it was great, but I didn't make anything. I didn't move myself about it. I didn't. And the door was so wide open back then too.
And there's times when you look back at that and I'm sure you go, dang it. If I just would have stayed on the train.
Every time. That's it. I didn't have to try any harder than I did now. I was just there in the beginning. That's all. I had such a low Twitter number. Man, my Twitter number was like in the hundreds of thousands. It was like, oh, like you're like 230,000th person on Twitter. I had such a low Twitter number.
But I mean, you can't look at it that way either. You can always say, oh, I could have done this and this would have happened. You don't know. You have no idea. You did what you did and that was the path you took. And you can't look back at it and go, man, I wish I would have done that. Because then you consume yourself with I wish I would have. Yeah. I probably should have. You just, you do what you do. I mean, even now, like you've come back and done a couple vlogs in the past couple months, but you're still not on a schedule. You just do it when you want to do it. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what makes it fun for you, then that's what you should be doing. Oh yeah. No, it's fine. Like I love the path that I took to get where I'm at now. Like I do. But man, there was so much open space for anybody to do anything. You could have literally just done anything and all you had to do was be consistent and you would have won back then. Yep. I would give anything to like have those days over again just to like, I enjoyed it back then because I knew it was the beginning of it, but just to like relive how quiet it was back then. Like you just to create. Yep. It didn't have to be, it wasn't, there was so much more freedom. That's what it was. There was a lot of freedom. And I think like that comes full circle though. And I think we talked about that a little bit last week. I think a lot of creators are realizing now that, you know what, it's okay to just do it and have fun with it and not worry about everything else. Right. It doesn't have to be a business model. Yep. Let's just make videos and have fun. Yeah. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I knew you were gonna say that. So for all of you guys at home, I just want to say, after we get our introductions and stuff out of the way, there is a bunch of topics and stuff that I want to talk about. And I know you do too. Yeah. So we'll get on to some stories. We'll get on to some topical things now that you got to know us a little bit better. I thought you said tropical for a minute. I'm like, tropical? What are you talking about? Maybe it's in the back of my mind because of all this bad weather. You don't know what bad weather is. I came to your house one time. That's true. That was not a real winter. It was nice. It was nice that it was semi-warm when you were here and we were able to actually go outside and do things and it wasn't like bitter cold. I'm glad you had that experience. That was so fun. You should have been here when it was minus 22. No, I shouldn't have. I don't think I would have had any fun. You'd have died. Because I wouldn't want to stay inside. I want to go outside and then I would just die. Yeah. Yep. So just before we wrap it up, do you have anything else you'd like to say? Thanks to everybody for listening and sharing this. I mean, it's really cool to see that everybody's enjoying what we're doing. Yeah, the love was great. Yeah. It feels nice. Good. Yeah. One thing I like is you have a really nice community and I've been able to be a part of it for the last couple of years, hanging around you and all. So it is nice. It is nice when I'm a part of this and I get to see all the good feedback and all the love that I get from everybody. So thank you.
Well, we'll see you guys next week. You can find us every Wednesday on your favorite podcast app. You can ask questions at the questions thread on our Facebook page at Country Mouse City Mouse Podcast. And you can also find us on Instagram at CC Mouse Podcast. Well, I am Dan, and you can find me at RFSDan.
I'm Jess. You can find me pretty much everywhere at Snow Dogs Vlogs.
Yahoo! So we will see you next week. Same mouse time, same mouse podcast. Bye.
Bye.